decoding our iOS. So in a way of understanding what's going on in our world in a scary sense, instead of trying to find the answers out there, although there are many valid things that are playing into the chaos in our world around us, the way that I've suggested we need to look at this to decode what's going on in the world is to understand what's driving us. Really, the world, people, populations are a group of individuals. And how and what drives individuals or us individually is demonstrated or lived out in a population sense. They're just many people. And so I've proposed to you that the way to decode, understand the times and figure out why it is that the world is acting like it is we need to understand what drives us. And we've been looking at our iOS, our internal operating system over the last 3 weeks. This week's week 4 in that. And there's some handouts if you've missed any parts of the series, starting with week 1, which I'd encourage you to do. I gave a series overview in that. And then there's some profiles of types of fear that drive humanity, that are derived from what we see in the original Genesis 1 garden story. And my hypothesis to you was that there was a change of operating system that took place in the fall, where the underlying spirit that humanity was created in, that of shalom and peace, was exchanged for one of fear. And that fear is expressed in 3 different ways. And we've been looking at how that has happened, how that expresses itself in 3 different ways of responding and positioning and organizing our life to protect us from those internal fears. And my proposal to you is that regardless of how silver your hair is or lack of hair is, that our inceptual imprint from our caregivers has largely established and reinforced the fear operating systems we inherited from our early forefathers, Adam and Eve. And we've been looking at how they show up, how they live, or how we live through them. And we've been getting to understand this. And many of you have actually commented how interesting this series is. And I want to just reframe what we're doing, or reframe, because I've been trying to reframe it as we're going along, to show you why this is such an essential message for us. It's not just purely informational. This is connected, I want to propose, to the very heart of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we've been learning along the way this year that actually the evangelical church, which this church has been a part of over the years, has largely understood the Bible story with sin being a moral failing. We broke the rules and there are consequences to that. But as we took a deeper dive into this lens, we've seen actually the garden story shows us that yes, there's a sin from a spiritual understanding perspective, but actually what plays out in the garden is very relational. There is a relational disconnect. There's a breach in relationship. And that change of relationship changes everything for humanity and changes our iOS system. I want to highlight this before we look at the third fear in the garden, the wrestler. And I feel like I want to kind of try and frame this up because this will help you understand why this is connected in with what I believe is the mission of the church. And a part of the mission I don't think we have seen or captured or done very well. But it flows out of how God created the first human beings. And so in Genesis 1, before I look at that verse in Genesis 1:27, in the creation account in Genesis chapter 1, when God is creating the heavens and the earth, he speaks. He says, let there be light, let there be land, let there be XYZ, and it happens as he proclaims. But with humanity, with people, there's a different creative process that the Bible shows us that takes place. And there's things in this that we miss. Because we're so used to looking at things just purely at a spiritual level, we miss the profound imagery, the metaphors, what the original writers are trying to convey through the creation account. So in Genesis chapter 1:27 with humanity, it says that apart from the rest of creation, God creates us, humanity, in his image. And the Hebrew word there literally means shadow. It's a shadow. And I can remember as a kid, I used to love playing with my shadow. I'd watch Peter Pan and try to outchase my shadow. But everything I did, I could never outrun my shadow, outmaneuver my shadow. What I did when the sun was shining on me and my shadow was there, it moved in unison with me. And this sense of being created in the image of God was that God's shadow representation, humanity, would move in sync with him. It would capture his essence, his heartbeat. It would be in perfect unison with him. But what was that forged in humanity to create that? It wasn't a let there be and humanity was formed. In Genesis 2, chapter 7, it says this, the Lord formed a man from the dust of the ground and he breathed into his nostrils and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Do any of you know what a hongi is? Okay, some of you do. Okay. My wife, who is a New Zealander, when we were living there, we were part of a church-led church in a very First Nations community, and I had the privilege of growing to understand the Maori First Nations community. And they were quite different in how they related to one another than us Westerners. And in Maori culture and custom, when they greet one another, they hongi one another. And a hongi is, you may have seen this on the TV, the pictures up there of this. It is where they bring their foreheads and noses, they press their noses together and they breathe out and they breathe in and they breathe each other's breath. And that's a hongi. And some of you are like, that's disgusting. And I can remember presiding over some First Nations Maori funerals, and I experienced my first ever hongi at these events, and it was profoundly moving. The sense of connection, like it's intimate at a whole nother level. David, I've asked David in advance, made sure he's okay with this. We've washed noses. Yeah, we have. But like us Westerners, like, hi, how you doing? If you're family, you may give them a hug. My family's Dutch. The men and the women give each other a kiss on three kisses on the cheek, not like British may give one kiss on one cheek, but with the hongi, it's like a whole nother level. I asked David if we can hongi together, and so, okay, we're going to press foreheads and noses. Yeah, there you go.
That was good.
Yeah. Here's the profound thing. The hongi to the Maoris means breath of life. And their Maori mythology captures the biblical mythology in many parts. They believe when you hongi, it's not just this close-up physical thing. There's a spiritual soul, body thing taking place. They actually believe that you become, in part, one with the person. Sorry, David. That you hongi with. There's something that you impart to them and you receive from them. And that's profound. It's profound and it's deeply meaningful. And you could see how personal it is. Don't worry, I'm not going to get you to hongi yet with one another. And the sense in Genesis 2:7, where God breathes into Adam, into his nostrils, the breath of life, is this sense of deep, profound relational intimacy. It's not just an abstract creative act. Let it be. Bam. Human comes into life. No, he is getting as close as he can to what it is that he's bringing to life. And he is, from the depth of his being, forming from himself, taking the deepest part. The breath comes deep from his belly and it breathes life. And there is a human who's created in his image, carrying his essence, his life. It's relational at its heart and profoundly spiritual, but it's transmitted. I believe that the author of Genesis wanted us to see is transmitted relationally. And Adam and Eve were commissioned with the commission by the Lord in Genesis 1, go forth and multiply. Go birth in your kind. Go create what has been created in you. What kind were they created in? Another kind, the God kind. And they were meant to pass on that which had been passed on to them through this intimate, profound relational act. And that's what the heartbeat of marriage union was meant to be, this deep, profound, face-to-face, one flesh intimacy. But family was an extension of that. Family was the place where the values of God, the heartbeat of God, the love of God, the nature of God was birthed into humanity and imprinted on us in such a way that the family members not just bore the physical resemblance of their parents, but the emotional and intimate resemblance. It was done in the spirit of life and exchange and love as they're breathing in and out the essence of who they are. I think it's true that humans, apart from all of the other mammals, are the ones that require the most parental nurture before they're able to look after themselves. That's by design. It's by design, yeah? Because it's not just being able to walk and talk. We've got little Griffin, my grandson, who lives with us, and he's lovely, and just seeing the developmental stages that are happening and going on and seeing him discover. There's that whole process that's going on, and billions of brain cells, they tell me, each day are being forged in his head, the neural pathways that are causing him to grow up into the person he's becoming. And that process seems to take forever and ever and ever, but it's wonderful to watch most of the time. And it's great to hand him back to mum as well. I'm not the primary, and dad. But there is this life exchange that's happening as well. He's catching something, the value system from us. We're imprinting on him to lesser or greater degrees the heartbeat of God. And as much as we carry in our life, we get to impress and print on him. And I believe we've got the mission of the church a bit off skew by just simply focusing on it in spiritual terms. Yes, it's spiritual, but all of life is spiritual. All of life is sacred. There's something that is so profoundly sacred in the exchange of life on life, of people like we did last night, getting round a brazier and trying to stay warm in the cold breeze that was blowing. And there was an exchange of life happening, getting to know one another in community. And we need one another. We need to be breathing in, hoinging one another as a community so that we love like he first loved us. And this is where I believe that the call of the church needs to be recaptured. If I am right, and I am right, that it wasn't just original sin in a moral sense, but it was original sin in a disconnection sense, and I am right in that. And that our world is in a crisis of aloneness, where we are living and we're adapting and adjusting our lives to protect and shield us from this terrifying experience that we were hardwired to have an aversion to prior to the fall. It is not good for man and woman to be alone. It was pre-fall. And we are recalling in different ways from that. And people in the world act like they do and do crazy things in response to the level of life that's been given to them in their formative family environments, and have that image of God. Whether or not they profess the name of God, you can impart life and love in the way that God designed humanity to do. It's great when they know Jesus and can get it more captured. But that life can be impressed or not on them. And I believe the church's mission at its heart is meant to translate that to the world. We're meant to be Christ to the world. I love St. Francis of Assisi, who said, preach the gospel at all times, and only, say only, when necessary, use words. How do you do that? Well, I'm Christ to you, you're Christ to me. The way I interact with you, the way I see you, the way I'm truly interested in knowing beyond coming in on a Sunday morning and I'm saying, how are you doing? If there is genuine interest and hunger, then just simply a greeting. No, I'm wanting to see you and know you and to be known by you. And I've suggested to you that until the church is able to shed these yellow smiley things that we have been we all wear, including the guy behind the pulpit there, if you look closely, yeah, we remain alone in our midst. And our aches and our pains and our agony of our souls screams out through us. Yeah. We were dialoguing as a board at our last but one board meeting, and we were sharing about this. I showed them this picture, and one of them said, "Wow, wouldn't it be great if the church could be that? I don't know how we can be that." And I said, "Well, it has to start with you and me and us coming in." Where at the door, you know how some families have a bowl on the table where you put your phone when you gather, so everyone puts their phone away so you're not tempted to look at your phone. We should have a bowl at the door where we leave our masks. Yeah? And yeah, God, let that be. Anyway, that's the why behind this series. It's meant to be profoundly invitational. It's profoundly scary because it gets down to our hard wiring, why it is that we do what we do, even when it's dressed in Christian attire and sounds great, and is celebrated, but it is coming from a fear basis. Many of the Christian wonderful things that we're received in our Christian community come from a source of I am protecting myself because I'm afraid. And it shows up in service, it shows up in kindness, it shows up in good behavior. But what we have is a mask on that is protecting us. And so we've been looking at those different forms of protection that we all carry and how they show up in our lives. And we've looked at the withholder, the chaser, and today I just want to briefly mention, because I've got a few minutes left before communion, the wrestler, the last of the three fears that showed up in the garden. It comes from Genesis 3:8. The man and his wife heard the sound of the Lord as he was walking in the garden in the cool of the day, and they hid from the Lord among the trees of the garden. And so Adam and Eve, who have been used to walking and talking and meeting God in the cool of the day, hear the sound of the Lord approaching to them. And what has been something that has excited them in the past, where there is this communion, union with God daily in the midst of this paradise garden, is now being experienced differently by Adam and Eve. And they're wanting this connection, but they're terrified that they will be left alone and abandoned. And so they hide from the Lord in the trees. And the essence of this third profile is a combination of the anxious and the avoidant tendencies of the witholder and the chaser. They carry them both in a unique blend that forms its own profile. They have aspects of the previous two profiles, but in formation together, it shows up differently. When you combine colors together, it creates a new color. And the wrestler profile is its own unique set of behaviors. And it's characterized by, I want love, but I'm scared of love. And so there's this push-pull tendency that you see in people that are hardwired with this. Biblically speaking, you see this profile in the person of Moses. And what I want to highlight, because next week we're going to transition into growing the new heart, the iOS system that the Bible talks about through Christ. How do we grow that in us? And so I'm kind of putting seeds of that in today's message. And as I've been saying, these things are birthed into us relationally. They're imprinted by our primary caregivers. And when you think back to Moses and his life, he was someone who experienced love, but it was taken away from him. And then he experienced love, but it was dangerous love. So the backstory to Moses was they were slaves in Egypt. He's born at a time where babies are to be killed. He's a desired, wanted baby, but the mum can't risk having him. So she puts him on a basket, throws him into the river. Yeah, if there's anything that's going to sow rejection into someone, that imprint of, wow, I want you, terrified to hold you. Babies don't have the cognitive abilities to comprehend, to decode what's going on. And so all of that sows in confusion into his life. And then he's adopted by a princess, a pharaoh princess who wants him, but he's not really one of them, and he grows up with everything, access to all sorts, but at the same time, he doesn't feel accepted. I want love, but it's dangerous. And this imprint forges into him this wrestler profile that shows up throughout his life. He grows more as the Bible story goes. But we see when God first meets him in the burning bush, he's intrigued but terrified. I want love, but I don't want love. There's this reticence and there's this hesitancy in him how he approaches the Lord. It's his iOS system that is operating underneath. And then God says, I'm sending you back. And Moses turns around with not just hesitancy about God, about himself. And he says, anyone but me. What about Levi? Yeah? It's this iOS system. It's informing his engagement with the living God. It's running in the background. And then just quickly, I'll just touch on this because he is the most famous wrestler in the Bible, Jacob. He's the one that wrestled with God, or the angel of the Lord. And when you think about his imprinting, the hardwiring of his iOS system, where his parents are breathing life into him or not, you think of that life exchange. What do you know about his background? What was his background like? It's pretty messed up, yeah? There was a pecking order in the family. Mum played one son against the other. Dad played one son against the other. There's this horrible environment where there's just no acceptance in the family, unconditional acceptance. And they learn to compete against one another. Yes, I'm loved by Mum, but only if I do what she says. And it forges into him such a deep back and forth tug of war in him that he lives out, and he ends up fighting God. And he's saying to God, bless me. And God's saying, but you're holding back from me. I need you to surrender. And Jacob's like, bless me, bless me, bless me. And God says, but only if you're able to get honest. What's he doing? He's holding back who he truly is, because he's petrified at his core that he will be rejected and left alone. So he's the withholder. He's the ultimate withholder, and he's trying to intercept being rejected, but he wants love. All right. They fear abandonment. These are some of the values of, so the values are what we put our energy and effort in to protect our greatest need. And in terms of the wrestler, they are afraid of closeness. It's coveted closeness. So people with a wrestler profile, and we Christians are the best at this, yeah? Playing masks with one another. We're like, hey, we're here, we're here, we're here. We're not fully here, yeah? How are you doing? Oh, I'm doing great, yeah. But we're not sharing fully. And the greatest people to do this form of hiding, guess who they are? Yeah, pastors. Where's the safest place to hide? Yeah, at the front. Yes, I get to control everything. It's the ultimate way of protecting. Yes, many pastors do that. I've seen that about my own life as I've journeyed and God's confronted me. Said, hey, you use your job to hide because you get to show them what you want and you get to keep that distance. That's the wrestler profile that shows up in us pastors. So we get to, what's the word? We get to give you what you want enough to keep you satisfied, but to keep us protected from you knowing us fully. Because love is something that can be given and taken away. So let me share some more things. So emotional vigilance, we're looking all the time, or people with the wrestler profile, we're scanning all the time to see how people are engaging. We're looking, we're very cued in by body language. Yeah, they say 80% of human communication isn't words, it's body language. And people with a hypervigilance are reading body signals all the time. Are they being drawn to me? Are they looking confused? Are they looking like they might reject me? And we are hypervigilant, trying to anticipate and intercept what people are doing. And it's happening all the freaking time. And then the other thing is there is a sense in which we are looking for, we manage other people. So people with this particular profile, we manage other people. And we may not be conscious that we're doing it, but there are many different ways that we manage people to keep them on side so they don't abandon us. And one of those ways are doing acts of kindness. Yeah, it's very hard to show your. So if I'm nice to you, it's very hard for you to be not nice to me, yeah? So if I learn that about the action of kindness towards someone, it can become something that I use to keep myself safe from possible rejection. So sometimes the very Christian behavior of service, giving, writing cards to people, calling, doing all of these things is driven from a deep-seated fear of they will abandon me. If they see me or I'm myself, there's a possibility they will withdraw their love. And so I do to keep you on side. I give to keep you happy. And what we're doing is coming from an unhealthy base. But everyone else around us going, oh, they're so Christian. Yeah. All right. And then lastly, spiritual intensity is a replacement for felt safety. And what I mean by this is because wrestlers don't feel safe with closeness, they often chase spiritual intensity. It's called spiritual bypassing. And I have a suspicion that many charismatic Christians carry a strong bypassing tendency. And I know this because this has been my life. Because if I can feel him and he's so wonderful, beautiful, I don't have to live on planet Earth or feel my real feelings. I can protect myself from having to engage in the world. And so they're often the ones that are at every single conference, getting their spiritual high down the front. And what it is just avoidant, not having to live. All right. There's a sheet with this all on there. You can read it. I just want to briefly land it on this, and then we're going to take communion together. This is true not just for the wrestler, but for all of these profiles. The starting place is from him. We love because he first loved us. But in order to be loved by him, we need to be fully known and seen and embraced by him. And the starting place is, God, help me to bring myself fully and honestly to you. Let it be Leanne Payne, who was a great writer of the last century. She used to have this prayer. I didn't understand it for years, but it's brilliant. She said, let it be the real me that talks to the real you. Yeah? Because sometimes we're so good at conning everyone, we've conned ourselves. So we turn up, hey, and we've got no idea we're not being honest with God. And so she has this prayer, let it be the real me that talks to the real you. So we come to him naked, and we come to him honestly, sharing our fears, our worries, our concerns. The more real you are and attuned you are in real time with what's going on, the good and the bad. And for most of my Christian life, I didn't realize I didn't bring God the bad stuff, the sin, yes, but not the struggles, the doubts, the concerns, because I thought that was unbelieving, and he would be disappointed in that. But he wants to know all of that stuff. So we come to him honestly. Yeah. To Jacob, God said, tell me who you are. And when he says, I'm Jacob, he says, I'm deceiver. That's what his name means. And God's not offended. He knows. Yeah, being honest, I'm broken, I'm frail, I'm weak, I'm afraid. He loves that stuff. He loves it. He knows it. But he celebrates it because we're getting real with ourselves. And in the midst of that, he surprisingly meets us. And there's an exchange of life. And he breathes into us. Receive the breath of life. Be clean. Be whole. We're going to practice in a moment something called the Abba breath prayer. Explain it. We're going to do this. We're going to sing the song during communion. But it's a way of allowing God to hongi you. Yeah? The Abba breath prayer, so the Abba word comes out of Romans 8:15, where Paul writes, so you've not received a spirit, a living breath that makes you fearful slaves. Instead, you've received God's spirit, can see a spelling mistake there, of life, where he adopted you as his children. Now we call him Abba, Dada, which is what it literally means, Dada. And the Abba breath prayer is this. You breathe in the word ah, so the first part of ah, and then you breathe out. Yeah? Don't do it too much, you'll pass out. Which is dangerous in a charismatic church, because we'll think you're slain in the spirit. Yeah. Last story, very quick story. So many of the things that happen in life are not they're happenstance type things. Last night I shared at the barbecue, I was sitting next to Tim, and he shared, I was sharing how I was going to talk about the hongi, and that hongi is known as the giving of life. And Tim shared he'd just been to the gym and was on the running machine, and the guy next to him passed out, hit his head, and he died. And Tim and another guy administer the kiss of life to this man, and while they were waiting for the emergency response people to come, they were keeping the man alive, and they were able to restart his heart. But they gave life to someone. Yeah. The breath that was in him, they put in him. They pumped his blood around his veins. I have a feeling that what God is teaching us in here is he is giving us, wanting to give us the breath of life as we get whole, emotionally speaking, carry the life, the living life of God, his image in us to greater degrees, that he's calling us to become the kiss of life to the world around us. Preach the gospel without words. Relate to them in the way that they, in their aloneness, in their ache, in their vulnerability, that you're a safe place and you can speak life and love and destiny to the world around us to alleviate the suffering of being alone. But it comes through him. We love because he first loved us. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite heavy.
Yeah.
So the communion's being passed around. Sarah Lynn's going to come and play ABBA. And during this, we're going to practice the ABBA breath prayer. And you might even want to be engaging with that now. Allowing yourself, once you've received the communion elements, to just, still yourself. Imagine that the Lord is honging you today. He's coming up close, impressing himself on you. My grandson does hongies all the time. No one taught him it, but he does. He loves coming up close, putting his forehead on us. It's so strange, but wonderful. Yeah. Communion was the Genesis 2:7. Communion was the Genesis 2:7 experience. In 1 Corinthians 11, I received from the Lord what I also passed on to you. Yeah, he was imprinting the breath of life that he'd received to the disciples that he walked with. And he says, the Lord on the night he was betrayed took bread, and when he had given thanks, he broke it. And he said, this is my body, which is for you. Do this in remembrance of me. And just some directions. There's 2 films on this thing. Try and rip the top one. Otherwise it gets messy. We're just grabbing the wafer. I'd like you to close your eyes. Breathe in the word, or first part of the word, for Abba. Breathe out. And do it as many times as you feel comfortable, but ideally draw his life into the depths of your being. Body broken for you. goes on and says, in the same way after supper, Jesus took the cup saying, this cup is the cup of the new covenant in my blood. Do this whenever you drink it in remembrance of me. Before you consume this, just again, take a few deep in-drafts and exhales of the Abba prayer. Blood of Christ shed for you. Receive the breath of life.
Define me, you're inside me, you're my reality. Abba,
Timothy 1:7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind." It starts with Him, but the rewriting of our iOS system, our internal operating systems, our hearts, comes in the same way that it was forged in us through relationship, yes, with Him. He's our loving Father, but embodied by you, me, and us to each other. We're looking at this next week some more, but the story of the demoniac who had multiple spirits cast out of him. And he asks Jesus, begs Jesus, "Let me follow you." Not in a demonic voice like that. "Let me follow you." I don't know how it came out. But he was like, "Let me follow you. You've just brought freedom to my life. You've set me free. You've set me free." And Jesus says to him, he says, no. Go back to your community. He says, go back to your community. Go back. Why? He's not rejecting him. They are to embody, the people of God are to embody the life of God, the relational aspect of being seen and known and embraced and healed and restored and held. And us charismatics, we're great with this. We want this. We've got this on super highway, on worship music. It's playing 24/7 in our house, but we're not good at this. And we're wondering why we're still walking with a limp. Leave your masks at the door. Yeah. Go back into community. Go back into community. Go back. God, give us grace to be able to embrace, apprehend, live out everything that is available for us, every spiritual blessing, the high places in Christ, embodied here on planet Earth through us relationally. Teach us how to do life on life better. Life on, not just with you, but with ourselves, our closest ones, our families. That you would turn some of our living hells into living water. That we may take that which you've done in us and tell the hungry pilgrims who are searching, lost, lonely, aching, hurt, confused, angry, afraid, where to find living water. Bless you as you head home. Thank you again to our worship team. Thank you to our Lord and our Savior for what He's done. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next week.